And hello, welcome back to the Gay Racing Podcast. Zach and Alex are back with you for another great episode. Today we are talking about NASCAR at Martinsville. Denny Hamlin's back in victory lane at Martinsville, which is weirdly comforting. Hasn't happened in like 10 years. Weirdly comforting.
Is nature healing?
Is nature healing? No, because if you watch the
No.
Xfinity race Saturday, that was a dumpster fire. Well,
Not a dumpster fire, because a dumpster fire is contained, as Mike Joy once said.
Thank you, because I couldn't get that in my mouth. So we're gonna talk about the Xfinity race, Sammy Smith, the choice he made on that final lap, whatever that was.
Plenty to talk about there.
What else? What is anything else in the T? No, nothing.
Mm-mm.
What happened this week? Nothing. Everyone's busy posting their throwback schemes. I'm gonna show y'all my throwback scheme. I made a throwback scheme. Yeah. You might have already seen it if you open your phone on Twitter. You might have already seen it. Or Blue Sky. It's on Blue Sky too. What about Blue Sky, Zach? That's what you were about to say. Anyways,
I was about to say that.
I know you're about to say that. Anyways, so Alex, Denny Hamlin. Oh wait. We got a few things to talk about.
I was gonna say, happy birthday to all trans people who are visible today. Happy birthday? Trans Day of Visibility.
Happy birthday?
Yeah, all trans people are born today, right?
Yeah. On a serious note, though, I saw someone post this. Like, it's not only like a day to be like, yeah, you're so valid for being trans. It's also like, hey, trans people are in danger right now in this country. Just with legislation getting passed and brought up, it's a day to kind of also acknowledge that. So, we just wanted to mention on the podcast because it's not
sending love to all of our trans friends and listeners out there. Like,
stay safe.
You're getting the brunt of the attacks right now.
Yeah.
So stay strong. Do what you can. Stay in your comfort zone. Do what makes you happy.
Our community,
but don't stop fighting. Yeah. Embrace your communities.
Yeah, weird times we live in. But yeah, happy Trans Day of Visibility. Glad that we could celebrate it on the podcast. And so one more thing before we finally talk about Denny Hamlin. I recorded a bonus episode with our good friend Elizabeth Blackstock that should be going up on YouTube like tomorrow night, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. We'll see.
April 1st,
but it's not a joke. Y'all might be listening to this on April 1st.
it might be a April Fool's joke the way Zach was talking about it before.
We talked about the Formula One rookie class and kind of their background, and I actually got to learn a lot of cool things about them. So check that out. But some of y'all might have already checked that out because it's been on Patreon since like Thursday, Wednesday, whenever I did it. It's been a long week. I had a lot going on. So,
and if you want to watch that F1 Rookies episodes on patreon.com/GayRacingPod, if you don't want to wait a day.
Yeah. So, and thank you guys for subscribing. But Denny Hamlin, can I talk about Denny Hamlin now?
Yeah,
I'm not even a Denny Hamlin fan. I hate him actually. Wait a minute.
He was your number 2 last year,
and then I went back to hating him because he kept putting Kyle on the wall. So like, I can't. I explained it at Pocono last year, or Nashville or something. So I can't actually like him because he is the antithesis to Kyle Larson. But I appreciate Denny, obviously, one of the veterans of our sport. Love what he does on his podcast. Love that he's outspoken. Gets his 55th Cup Series win. Denny said himself, like 60 is that number he really wants to get to.
Yep.
And we'll talk about later. He might be running out of time to do that. He ties Rusty Wallace for P11. Oh, that's cool. On the all-times win list. And who's next? We got Kevin Harvick with 60 wins. So if he's able to get 60 wins, he'll tie Kevin Harvick. Kyle Busch has 63 wins. So those are the next ones he's chasing, which is kind of crazy because I feel like Kevin and Kyle won more,
Right. I don't necessarily think of Denny winning as much as those two. And I think it's because of the championship thing.
And
maybe.
also like the lower series. They won so much in the lower series too. Like not that Denny didn't, but like Kyle Busch, a lot of his winning is just from the nationwide series.
Yeah. And this was the 7th different crew chief Denny Hamlin has won with, this time with Chris Gale. And this was Hamlin's first win at Martinsville in 10 years, which, like we said at the start, like that's kind of surprising. That was his 6th win at Martinsville.
Yeah, I mean, he's won here a lot, and he
Yeah.
was. I mean, he was one of the only guys back in my day. Back in my day, he was one of the only guys that could keep up with Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson, like
Yeah.
legitimately. Which was a very impressive thing to do back then. So for him to be back in victory lane, yesterday's race felt like just a classic Martinsville race. You got someone who has Martinsville
Yeah.
figured out, running up front, battling the Hendrick guys like Chase Elliott, and he won. Like it was
And
kind of an ass kicking.
there's not too much to talk about the cup race, right? But I really liked that because we don't get
Yeah.
that a lot right now. We'll have well, Xfinity race. We had this. We usually have a whole bunch of overtimes, crashing. It just gets silly, and it's not great. This just felt, straightforward,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate just a race dominated by a single driver. Especially just because we don't get it that much. And
And
D- Denny Hamlin, like he's one of the veterans now. He's been in the longest, I think, besides Kyle Busch, been around the longest now. So, seeing a veteran kick some ass, that's awesome.
I don't think it's fair necessarily to say like, yeah, the race was kind of boring, but there were still like some interesting things that were happening. There were a
Yeah,
lot of incidents. There were some drama going on more mid pack that Fox sometimes showed us. We had some interesting strategy going on mostly early in the race, like when Josh Berry stayed out and like had track position. I was like, oh, Josh Berry's got track position. Like this is not good for the field. He's fast, right? So it was. I don't think we really knew who was going to win that race until we got to that final run and Hamlin started to pull away and no cautions
yeah.
were coming out. So yeah. So Denny, he wins. He gets out of the car. Everyone is calling this corny. I want to get your opinion, Alex. He has a blue flag, like a bright baby blue flag with his number 11 on it, and it says 11 against the world. And Mike Joy, I think, had the perfect response to it. He goes, "Really? Really, Denny?"
Uh, Zach, I thought this was peak Denny Hamlin. Maybe not peak, but like quintessential Denny Hamlin.
I've
Like,
seen
of
peak
course,
Denny
he's gonna
Hamlin.
do something cheesy or corny. I think it's fine. I saw some people were like really like annoyed by this. Like he's showing his personality. This is Denny Hamlin. He's going to do something silly like this.
Well, apparently it was a fan's flag. Did you see this?
I did not. Okay.
You didn't see it. No, from what I got, because it was. Oh, I don't know who it was. I think I liked it or retweeted it on Twitter, but some fan brought that flag. I asked they made that flag and they brought it to Denny. They somehow were able to get it to Denny and show it to him before the race, and I guess he held on to it in case
That's
he were to
cool.
win or something. I mean, I'm gonna look uh while we talk about our next point, but that I just think that makes it less corny and actually kind of cool because it was like something a fan
Yeah.
created and he's using it in their victory. Um, that was really cool to me.
But
So
this is just something that's so Denny Hamlin. Like he always says, "This is the year, you guys. This is the year I'm going to do it," and then he doesn't. I'm glad for Denny that he did not say, "We're going to win this championship this year, you guys. This is the year."
that
He
would have
didn't do
been
that. So
awful.
maybe he still has a shot at finally getting that championship. But no, I didn't have any like issues with it. I'm
Maybe they
just like,
didn't
well,
make
that's
I
Denny
might have
Hamlin.
made that up. I might have just I don't know.
Wouldn't be the first time. It's okay.
Well, this one pic of them, it looked like it was from pre-race though, like with the flag. So I don't know. I
You
try.
tell us in the YouTube comments or tweet us or post
I
to
might have
us
just
at
made that.
on Blue Sky.
I like making stuff like that up.
Anyway, uh,
No,
Zach,
they had it before the race. They had it before the race, those fans. So
cool.
I don't think it was I don't know.
So Zach, let's move on. So a lot of people were saying Denny Hamlin would go winless this year. This is his first win since
Really?
April of last year, which was at Dover. A lot of people didn't think he was going to make the playoffs this year, and I remember
No, that's ridiculous.
in our pre-race episode or pre-season show, I was like, well, I could see it, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's maybe what I said.
Yeah. So I'm not shocked that he won, but is Denny back? I mean, only Christopher Bell has really done much of anything at Gibbs. Like Truex wasn't winning last year either. Ty Gibbs obviously hasn't won yet. Like I think Gibbs was just kind of behind for a little bit, maybe,
I
and
think
now they're
Gibbs
catching up.
I think with them they've been going through a lot of transitions like
Yeah. A lot of crew
Truex
chief
leaving,
changes. Yeah.
crew chief changes. Ty Gibbs has been struggling. Like that's a like like the 19 and the 54 team. That's half the organization, and they haven't really been. I guess I don't know if stable's the right word, but there's been a lot of newness and a lot of change going on. Where before they had their Truex, Kyle Busch, and Denny Hamlin trio of just excellence, right? Like in
Yeah.
2022, right? And for years before that, where they had such the best drivers, the best like they were just to me they look more stable. Now there definitely is stability with like Christopher Bell and Adam Stevens, but that was kind of the only thing that we were seeing, right?
Yeah.
Denny Hamlin losing Chris Gabehart. I mean, again, though, this is the 7th crew chief he's won with. I don't think it's that big of a deal that he has a new crew chief at this point, obviously,
Still
but
impressive though that Denny's able
it
to do
is.
that.
Yeah, I think this definitely brings some stability back to JGR because you know what, Denny can still win. It's not just Bell. We just need Chase. Chase Briscoe says every week, and I find this super interesting how different it is to drive those JGR cars compared to what he had at SHR. Like he has to completely change his driving style. I've never heard a NASCAR driver, mostly in this era of the next gen car, talk about it like that. I really find that fascinating. And then
Yeah.
Ty Gibbs actually finished top 20 yesterday. Hell yeah, let's go Ty.
Yeah, that'd be the first one since like what, September,
I
October?
don't know. I
Something
guess.
like that. But this is really cool for Denny because many people, like I was saying, wrote him off. And on top of that, he lost FedEx as a sponsor,
Yeah.
and he had a nearly year winless streak. And this was his second race with new sponsor Progressive, who's doing around half the season. I'm hoping Progressive that this like entices him to stick around the rest of Denny's career, just so he has that
Well, it ain't gonna
stability
be
and
that
doesn't have to
long.
go. I know, but doesn't have to go the route of what Kyle Busch did and have to do like a year. I think it'd be cool if he did a year at like 23-11 or something. But just give him that stability rest of his career.
I
Um,
saw their little paint scheme preview graphic, and someone spotted how like JGR just has all these very recognizable sponsors. You got Progressive,
yeah,
you got Monster, DeWalt, Bass Pro Shop. Like it kind of reminds you of old NASCAR. That's
yeah,
so it's just one of those things that Progressive reminded me of. And glad to see them I mean, it's good to see a big company come to the sport and they immediately have success. Like that is what you're saying. It might entice them to stay. Not even after Denny
yeah.
leaves. If
True,
you think about that.
true.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Zach. This was Denny Hamlin's 55th win. He tied Rusty Wallace. Rusty Wallace, that was his last win, obviously, and it also came at Martinsville.
Yeah, when he
It's
got his
very
50th
possible
win.
this was Denny Hamlin's last win. That's
Yeah.
something we could be saying about a lot of these older guys. Hamlin, Kyle Busch. We've talked about Kyle Busch
It happened
plenty.
with Truex. It
Yep.
happened with Truex. Who would have thought that Truex got his 3rd win of the year at New Hampshire? It was his 3rd win in like I feel like 8 races. Like he was going on a kind of a tear, right?
Well, and look at Kevin Harvick. Kevin
Kevin
Harvick won
Harvick
2
too.
in a row. Those are his last 2
Those were
wins.
his last 2 wins. Especially
Never
in
know.
this era of NASCAR, you never know because it's really not a performance dip. That's not what actually happens to these drivers that stop winning. It's kind of like what we see with Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch can still win races, but he's not because little things are happening,
Yeah.
right? He's either the 2nd place car that day or something happens or whatever. That's just kind of how NASCAR is. We kind of also saw it with Jimmy Johnson. I mean, Jimmy Johnson's last win was a few months removed from his last
It's
championship.
yeah.
Like it's
Yep.
just so and Denny mentioned yesterday that he's really appreciating these wins, and I think it's
He should be.
obviously because he doesn't know if this is his last win or not. It could be. And that's not a knock on his skill. I mean, he just kicked everyone's ass yesterday. You never know in this
Yep.
sport when your last win is because you're not going to get to choose. So it's just something that Denny is thinking about, and that if you're a Denny Hamlin fan, I feel like it's something you kind of have to think about, which is kind of
Right.
scary. It definitely is scary. And I
Yeah.
know when I was a Dale Jr. fan, I never thought about that, mostly because I'm not used to him winning. But when he won Phoenix in 2015, I was like, okay, whatever. Let that rain
Right.
shorten race. I was like, okay, whatever. But that was his last win. I was like, oh my god, what? No, that's crazy.
Right.
So something to think about.
Yeah. Well, good for Denny. I'm glad he won this race, to be honest, just because there was a lot of questions from the fans, at least, what happened with his future there. Let's talk about some highlights. Christopher Bell finished second, so pretty good day. But another Toyota driver, Bubba Wallace, finished third. And oh my gosh, what a start to the year Bubba Wallace is having. By far the best start of a season for him in his career. He has now 2 top
Yeah.
fives in a row. That's the first time he's ever done that. Very impressive. Very impressed with Bubba Wallace. That new crew chief, obviously, that's working out really well. The pit crew's been really good for him too.
Yeah. It's noticeable. It's a noticeable shift in two ways because you are seeing him up front again, as I kind of mentioned last week in stage 3. Like he's actually a player at the end of these races, and two, he just is different. Like the way I see him in interviews on
His
social media, like
mentality.
he's always been a funny guy, right? But that is like upped so much this year. Like his little sarcasm and stuff. It's much higher this year than it is normally.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. Maybe I just haven't been paying attention. I see that in him, and it looks like he's very comfortable. He's a dad now. He's got this new crew chief that I think obviously is going very well. I think life's just good for Bubba, and it's great
Yeah.
to see. And it's very obvious to anyone paying attention. So no wonder he's running good. And you know what's interesting? We have not
Hmm.
seen much of Reddick this year. Isn't that
You're
interesting?
right.
Like
Yeah.
he's been in the top 10, sure, but like I mean, he's just there. He's not fighting for the win
Yeah.
at all.
The only time I can like vividly remember Tyler Reddick was Dakota finish. Other than that, I couldn't
Yeah,
tell you
I
how
forgot
he's
about
done
that.
this year. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. That is
Something.
interesting. I would say Bubba's been the best 2311 car.
Yeah, both the only two 2311 cars, right? There's only two of them, right? Yeah. There's not a
I
secret third
forget
one.
about the third one with Riley Herbst every
I
week. And
I
then
made a
he's on
tweet about it.
screen. I'm like, oh,
I forget he exists because if I see his car, I'm like, oh, that's Ty Gibbs. If he's in
right?
Monster,
No,
that's
no,
Ty
for real
Gibbs.
though, because those number fonts are kind of similar. 35,
Yeah, that's
45,
true.
always the same sponsor. Like, oh, that's Ty Gibbs, probably
Well,
running
really,
30th. Okay.
he doesn't even run the monster car that much, but I just see him and I'm like, okay, that's just a that's I don't know, but
Yeah.
so 2311's in a bit of a weird spot, but and Bubba's leading the charge, which is kind of cool to see because that's their guy. I mean, that team started with Bubba, so
True.
nice.
Now, Ryan Preece, he's got his third top 10 in a row. I don't know if that's the first time he's done that, but like I did not expect him to be doing this either. And
Yeah,
kind of like 2311, it's kind of the reverse where the new car is doing pretty good, but then Brad Keselowski's doing pretty awful. We talked about
hmm
this last week that Keselowski has a new crew chief and everything. But Ryan Preece, I mean, we were saying again preseason that Preece will probably do pretty good on the short tracks. Pretty good. Top
yeah.
10.
I Nothing really to say. I mean, and also to be fair, it is kind of expected for him to be good at Martinsville. He's always been good here, even in the Cup
Yeah.
cars. So
And
yeah,
I would say Priest and Bubba are definitely like my two standout surprises of the
yeah,
season thus far. So
yeah.
good for them.
I will say my comment about Tyler Reddick was a little ridiculous because Tyler Reddick is still like 5 points higher than Bubba in points, but you know what
He's
I
been
mean though.
quiet though. Bubba's had a lot of
Bubba's
issues in some races.
Bubba's getting top fives.
Yeah.
Tyler's not really getting. Does he have a single top five? Daytona and Coda.
Coda.
That's a okay, yeah. But like he's still getting good finishes. But I don't know. My only concern with him is the intermediate tracks. That's my only concern because they seem very far off on the intermediates, and we're
Which
kind
is
of going to
interesting
one.
just cause a few weeks ago they were really good.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I think I said weeks, I meant years. A few years
Years.
ago, they were like really, really good at the
Like
intermediates.
especially like they owned Kansas and stuff, but
Yeah.
now they're
And then
like
they were awful
they're
out of
just
nowhere.
lost. They're just kind of
Yeah.
they're just kind of lost. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
that's just one of the cool things about NASCAR and setups and stuff.
And now let's talk about Penske. Blaney started 32nd, and then he drove up to the top 10. He finished 11th, but
Okay, what's he doing on Saturday? Is he like asleep? Does he like wake up late and then like is still tired? Like what is going on Saturday to where he qualifies last? I thought he was
I
supposed to
don't
be good
know.
here.
He did drive through the field, Zach. I don't know.
Not the whole field.
Not the whole field, but
He drove through 90% of it. God, he probably passed Cody Ware a few times. I don't know.
yeah. Well, I think everyone did. I think everyone passed Casey Mears a couple times too.
Oh,
Casey
Casey
Mears was out
Mears.
there.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah,
yeah. So
batteries. They're running out of batteries.
batteries.
Penske. It first happened. It was Josh Berry, right? And this was like
Yeah,
he was in the lead, wasn't he?
he was in the top 5. I think
Yeah, he
he's
might
up
have lost
there.
it on like a restart or something. There was a lot going on at the end of stage one, but like he was in a great position to like
Oh yeah.
try to contend for the win of this race, right?
Because there was a
And
caution, or maybe it was the stage end. He stayed out, and
yes,
then
to
he
get that
didn't
track
pit,
position.
and
But
and
then
then
they had
right
to make an
after that,
unscheduled stop, and they were in the window working on stuff, and Austin Cindric had similar issues. Apparently, it got to the point where they were running out of batteries. Like, did they have to keep replacing their batteries? I don't know what was going on
I'm
there.
assuming so. But my question is, jokingly, they're sponsored by Duracell because of Menards. Why don't they just ask Duracell for more batteries?
Don't they have an actual car? Advanced Auto Parts. Ryan had it.
True,
They should have went to
true,
Advanced Auto. I bet there is an Advanced Auto Parts somewhere in Martinsville. Just go to Advanced Auto Parts.
right?
Get yourself some new batteries.
Come on.
Come
But
on,
yeah,
I'm sure.
interesting situation there.
Kind of
And
sucks. I mean, at least
the
Barry has that win, so he doesn't have to worry about his points position. But
yeah,
like that, because I mean, he was set up to have a really good day. Like,
yeah.
this really sucks.
And the last Penske car was Joey Logano. Got his first top 10 of the year. I did not realize he hadn't had a top 10 yet. The reigning champion.
This is a championship level run. It took him 8 races to get a top 5. He's on rate. He's on rate to get that 4th championship. The
He
stats
is
are
running
showing
about
it.
he
Oh
is
my
running
god.
about how he did a year ago.
Yeah. I mean, he's honestly had speed. In fact, of all the Penske cars, I feel like Joey. Well, Blaney's got more speed, but Joey always has more track position. Do you know what I mean? Because we actually do
Yeah.
see Joey up front because he's awake on Saturday and actually qualifies good. That is a part of it, though. I
Wow.
mean, Blaney's been
Yeah.
starting in the back for so many of these races.
You're
Like
right. Yeah.
he's taken after a little Mr. Newgarden over there. It's qualify mid pack here for no reason.
That's just rude to bring up Joseph like that.
I'm just
Wow.
bullying Alex today. Both his drivers suck.
You're just
Um,
bullying me today?
my
That's
thing,
a
well,
normal thing.
Alex, my thing with
Yeah.
Penske is I would not be sounding any alarms for
No.
any kind of performance because this is not the time of the year that they normally perform well. They don't.
No. Blaney will probably get his first win in the summer like he usually
Like he
does. He'll
did
be
last
fine.
year. They're a
Yep.
summer team. And it might
Yep.
be literally like it might be a science thing. It might be like they perform well with higher temperatures. You never know. I don't know. But they we just don't see that team come alive until we get to the summer months. That from and Ford in general, we kind of saw that last year
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be worried if I'm a Ford fan or a Penske fan at this point.
Yeah.
So
Well, Zach, we had the softer tires at Martinsville again. No option tire. There was no like second
we'll talk about
tire or
Miss
anything.
Option Tire in a minute. We will talk about Miss Option Tire in a minute. But let's talk about
But
Miss Soft Tire first.
yeah, did they make as much of an impact this time? We saw like the wear on the side of the car, like how it got dirty and everything. And that looks cool, but I feel like in the fall race when they used the same tire, that it weared a bit differently and weared more.
So
And Kevin
Harvick,
Harvick said in the booth said that the cloud cover might have lessened some tire wear, which I found interesting.
honey, that race last fall finished at night. I don't I don't I don't know. I'm
Right?
gay,
Like I
but
don't
I know
know.
how the sun works. I know how the clouds work. Listen, here's the thing about the tires and stuff. Um, two things. One, teams figure stuff out. At Martinsville last year, yeah, I bet there were some teams that had it really set up good for those tires, and then teams that did not have it set good. Well, guess what? Those teams that didn't have it figured out last time, after 500 laps of running that tire, they're a lot closer to having it figured out.
Right.
It's just kind of and I think that might be an issue with this whole direction of, well, let's have Goodyear just make the tires really soft to fix our really bad race car, because that's been a direction that we've been going since our gay tire experts at Bristol last spring with that weird, crazy tire race. Now,
Yeah.
listen, in gay tire expert back here, now I might be gay, but I don't know how soft you can make those tires. Like, can you make them soft as like a fruit snack? What's the? Because
Snack.
I'm sure there must be a line, right?
Right.
Because people yesterday keep saying, well, Goodyear just needs to make softer tires. Like, okay, Goodyear just has
These
to put
are the softer tires.
they have to pour more money into this just to try to maybe get better racing for the teams to just figure out again. And then we're back to where we are,
Right.
where it's like once the teams get that's my only concern. Like, how
Hmm.
soft do these have to get? And is that an actual feasible point to get to? Because that's what I'm not so sure about right now.
That's
Do you
very
share
fair,
my
and
concerns?
I think you're right because at a point, you're right, the teams are just gonna keep catching up and catching up. And look, I think we're in a better position with this car at Martinsville specifically than we were like the first Gen 7 next gen race. But you just need to add more horsepower, do something
I
with these
think
cars
that's
on the
what you
short
have to
tracks.
do.
I appreciate that Goodyear and NASCAR are doing stuff with the tires, but they need to cave and just adjust the car. That's
Because
that would make
yeah,
it a bit better.
the whole point of tire strategy in stock car racing is that you should have the option to blow through everybody and get track position, but you kill your tires. That does not seem to be an option. You can't just easily pass everybody. Um,
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's Martinsville. It's never going to be easy to pass at Martinsville. It's a short track. I get that. Uh, but we did not see much movement with positions, especially at the end of the race yesterday. I do know a way to make it so where people can pass easily. Oh, I believe we saw it a few weeks ago at Phoenix. Option tires. Welcome back to the Gay Racing
Oh.
Podcast, Option Tires. I want you back. NASCAR said, I believe it was earlier this week, that they have no plans to do another option tire race this season.
Correct. They did say that.
Oh, so we're done with this whole tire experiment? You're happy with what you got? Because that's telling me that they don't feel like they need to test it anymore because they like testing it in the races.
Why not North Wilkesboro? Why not Richmond?
Because again, as I talked about in that Phoenix
I don't get it.
episode, sure, if you want to test with the option tires, go ahead. Like test out a compound in the race by having an option tire. Sure. Again, I'm more interested in what they can be used to improve the competition. And I'm just saying, yesterday's race with some option tires, that would have been interesting.
Yep.
That would have added a whole nother layer to that race. And I don't know why we don't want that.
I don't get it. I will say
Especially, yeah.
though, I'll take boring. I wouldn't say this race was
Yes, I
boring,
agree.
but I'll take it over annoying any day. Which
I'm not
we're about to talk
exactly
about annoying, but it definitely needs to be a bit easier to pass.
I'm not yet because I'm also not clamoring for it to just like for that racing to be better because I think that's just a dud. Like it's just a
Yeah.
race. Like Denny Hamlin had everyone beat. Like,
And races like this happened a lot, like in the 2000s and 90s, where it's just like one guy's just kicking everyone's ass. That's fine.
yeah.
There's not not every race needs to be like an all-time classic. And I think that's the mindset NASCAR needs to get out of. Not
And
every
that
race is
goes
going to
back
be a
to
classic.
NASCAR or that
Yeah.
goes back to like Fox and the TV, like show the mid-pack battles.
Right.
Create storylines with these mid-pack guys, which is hard to do because well, no, it's not hard to do because we have a playoff cut line where they're directly involved. So yeah,
Yeah.
this guy is currently 18th in points. He could really use a good points day. Here
Yeah.
he is battling another guy, John Hunter Nemechek, who also needs a good points day. Wow. Not that
And
hard.
even if it is early in the season, they could say, well, this guy's having a really rough start to the year. He is like 30th in points.
And they
Look
do
at
that
him in the top
sometimes,
15 today. Yeah, they do.
but
But
not
not
enough.
enough.
Like
Not compared to how they used to in the like 2000s and
we're
even
just watching a
2010s.
watching a very zoomed in picture of Chase Elliott, and we keep oh my god, Kevin Harvick could not shut up yesterday about the line that Chase Elliott was taking. Oh my god, that's the only thing he could talk about. Wow, watch how Chase Elliott, he really sends it in the corner, and there he goes, swings high, comes back down. Like I love in-depth stuff like that, but I feel like that was the only thing he could talk about yesterday. The
Yeah.
line Chase Elliott was running. No one
Since you're
else
talking
diamond
about,
the corner before him.
if you're going to talk about the booth really quick, I just want to say Clint Boyer behaved himself yesterday for the most part. I thought he actually did probably the best he's done all season, which is not high praise, but he didn't annoy me
You're right.
for the
I have
first time all
nothing to
year.
say about him. That's good.
Yeah. And see, that's what you want. You don't want us to talk about you if you're in the TV booth. So good
Yeah.
job, Clint Boyer. Good job. Keep it up. Stop
He
talking.
probably thought the race was boring. He probably thought the race was boring. I think that's why.
Probably.
Every time Clint's good in the booth, it's just because the race sucked. Oh my god.
Uh,
Yeah.
well, oh boy,
Again,
Zach's.
well,
Yeah.
listen, before we move on to I think the reason we did like how boring that race was because of what happened on Saturday. Because again, I'm fine with a run of the mill Martinsville race in the Cup Series on Sunday. We're getting into the tea now, where we're going to talk about the NASCAR Xfinity Series at Martinsville. I on Saturday was at a wedding. Last time I went to a wedding before, it was when it was a Kansas weekend, and I believe it was the weekend where in the Xfinity race, Cole Custer punched Tyler Reddick. Or remember? Do you remember that in like 2019?
It was Cole Custer punching someone. I don't remember
Cole
who.
Custer punched somebody at Kansas. Um, So every time I go to a wedding, the Xfinity Series, all hell breaks loose, and that apparently happened at Martinsville because I got home and I checked my phone, and Twitter and Blue Sky are in complete actual dumpster fires, and I'm just like, what could have possibly happened to make this happen? To make this race such a trash heap. Um, and I
Yeah.
watched the highlights back and I'm like, well, that's kind of goofy. That's kind of, but this is just Martinsville. It's just, there's a lot going on. And then I saw the final lap with Sammy Smith and I'm like, oh, that's not quite what I like to see in my
See, and
motorsports.
even before the Sammy Smith thing, it was already awful. I was just like, this race just needs to end.
See, that's also
I
the difference because I watched 15-minute highlights. I didn't have to sit through it.
well, listen, on Saturday evening, I was cleaning up my apartment and I was like cooking and stuff. So I was like, I had it on in the background. Every time I look at my TV, they were crashing again. Oh, I'm gonna watch this restart, see if they go. They'll get like 5 laps in, crash. Okay, let me go do this. I go do something for like 10 minutes. I come back. They're still under caution. And I learned it's because they had another caution. I'm like,
Damn,
oh
you
my
get your
God.
taxes done too? You must have got a lot done Saturday.
I got a lot done.
Cleaned your
But
bathroom, cleaned your kitchen, did your taxes, pressed your
yeah,
clothes,
exactly.
folded
But
your
it's just like
laundry. God.
that race just never
Did you
ever
dust?
ended. I did dust. I
Did
did
you
need to dust.
you should have changed did you change the battery in your smoke detector? The air filters? Do you have to change the air filters?
Ooh.
You had enough time to do that.
I
You're
should
slacking.
have.
You had like 4,000 race was 3 hours long.
I need an IMSA race is what I need to be able to do that stuff. That's
That
stuff I
was an
don't even think
IMSA race.
about.
Every time you looked at the TV, they were under caution. So yeah.
True.
God. Oh.
But oh my god, no! This race was so annoying. I'm like, okay, Taylor Gray's probably been the cleanest guy today. Like
That
he's
thick young
out
man.
front. He's got a pretty big gap over Sammy Smith. And then I'm like, okay, Taylor's gonna win. Cool, good for him. Then Sammy Smith just makes no attempt at making the corner and just takes him out deliberately. Most ridiculous thing I've ever seen at Martinsville, quite honestly. Just
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well,
And
yeah.
then Sammy proceeds to take out the rest of the field with him. So then we just have like a 10-car pileup, turn 4, final lap. And then Austin Hill comes into it because, of course, he does. Austin Hill always just lucks into wins in Xfinity Series, I feel like. But that's not even the point. Like, this is just.
It, yeah.
Zach, we really like Sammy Smith, right? Like, you and I have talked about him a lot and we like
He's
him.
handsome.
He's handsome. He's really
He's
cute.
so cute. Have you seen his
But
eyes and his smile?
he is very cute. But
Oh my
listen,
god, he's so dreamy.
I lost a lot of respect for him because this is
Yeah, me
absurd.
too.
What the hell? And this interview pissed me
That
off
the
too.
interview
He would have
did
done
so
the
much
same
damage.
thing.
Hypothetically, he would have done the same thing.
And it's like,
Alex, you're dumb. And I'm calling you dumb because I know you would do the same thing. Hypothetically, you would do the same thing. So I'm going to do it first before you do it. Like, what is
but the thing
what is that
is,
logic?
the roles were reversed on a previous restart, and Taylor Gray did not do it.
In fact, he was paying Sammy back because Sammy started all of this.
And
Apparently,
Sammy
they
was
have
like, he
history,
was
though.
flipping me off the whole red flag and this and that. It's like, I don't care. I don't
Probably
even know if
because
that's
you moved
true.
him.
Probably. I don't know. He needs to be punished. Like this is I think he should have been punished during the race. He should have got a penalty for this. Like
That's the thing. Yeah, like NASCAR said they're going to take a look at it on Tuesday. Girl,
it's
you
too
need to
late.
nip it in the bud right then. Park their ass. Hashtag park their ass. 1-800 park their ass. Oh my gosh. What are we doing? Officiate your sport. Because here's what pisses me off. They NASCAR in 2010 chose to stop officiating their sport. With boys have at it. Now I know they went back on boys have at it, and they're like, okay, boys, you can have some. Boys have some of it. And because Carl Edwards committed manslaughter 4 races after the rule started. not manslaughter. He attempted manslaughter. So
He attempted.
he attempted manslaughter. We love Carl Edwards, but Jesus Christ. Anyways, so here's the thing: you're choosing not to officiate your sport because the drivers will police themselves. Oh, actually, you can't fight because we're gonna make sure all 300 of our security guards are around you post race. So you can't fight. So you can't take care of it. So you're gonna have to use your race cars as weapons. Okay, sure. There's a lot of problems with using your race cars as weapons, but sure, whatever. Oh, actually, you can't wreck people. Well, you can wreck people on purpose, but you can't admit to wrecking them on purpose.
And then we'll penalize you. We will not penalize you for doing it, but if you admit it, then we will.
Yes.
Like what? Stupid.
Oh, we'll penalize you. We'll suspend you for right hooking if we feel like it.
If we feel like it.
Like, so no, the drivers cannot police themselves because they're either not allowed to or they don't know what they're actually allowed to do and they don't want to find out the hard way. Sammy Smith might find out the hard way, but maybe not. I don't know. Like, so this isn't working.
No.
That's my point. This is not working anymore. It's very obvious this is not working anymore because that has crossed the line to where it's no longer racing. What did Austin Hill do yesterday? What did Austin Hill do to win that race? He did the same thing William Byron did to win the Daytona 500. He got lucky.
Yep.
Sure, he put himself kind of in position. If you want the 5th place guy to win the race, that's not the motor racing I want to watch. Sorry.
And
not the racing I want to watch.
So Denny Hamlin was posting during the race and he was calling for avoidable contact penalties. Maybe drivers should go to the end as long as line. You put a note in here that a lot of short tracks across the country have a rule where if you're involved, you go to the back of the field. And I've seen that at a lot of dirt tracks. I have seen that.
I think that's more on the extreme end because, like,
yeah,
I feel like sometimes accidents happen. Like Denny Hamlin, when he spun Chase Elliott, that was an accident. He said it himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he did not do that on purpose. You don't necessarily want that. And that also kind of nips drama in the bud a little bit because I understand that NASCAR wants this drama and there's a way to get that. I mean, I think IMSA officiates their races pretty well. They have avoidable contact penalties. They let argy-bargy happen, but there is a point where it crosses the line. What is that line? Well, that's the thing. How do you draw a line with that? There's certain...
I don't know, but yeah.
I mean, there's certain ways you could... I feel like it's a common sense thing, which, do we want NASCAR officiating to make common sense calls? Well, I don't think they can, but what choice do we have at this point?
So I still want bump and runs to be a thing, right? That's obviously, like a core part 100%. Of NASCAR, and they can't be like, oh, you moved him, you can't do that. Avoidable contact. Like they would never do that either.
It's just the stuff like, I don't know, we saw so much, again, I didn't watch the race, but it's like people that are like 3 wide and they're like getting they're banging and they're slowing each other down.
Yeah.
And then someone from behind them just runs clear through them. I think it was Christian Eckes, maybe. Like, dude, slow. That's avoidable. You did not need to just run through them. You had plenty of time to react. Yeah. Like, it's stuff like that. When you're causing, especially, I think really it should just mainly be used in races at tracks where there is just a high amount of cautions. Almost like NASCAR just needs to be like, yo, boys, we got to get this race in. Chill out. We're going to start sending y'all to the back.
A rule that I saw a lot at local tracks growing up was if you were involved or caused like 2 or 3 cautions, you're out of the damn race. I loved that rule
that better
because the race would actually finish. Once the clowns were out, the race would actually finish.
If you are involved in 3 cautions, you are parked. And that's generous.
I think that'd be a great rule, honestly.
I think that would be a great rule because they have that statistic. They have caution, like being involved in an incident, because they have to keep track of that because also that determines if you get the lucky dog or not on a caution.
And so if they want, it can be within it can be in a certain lap period if they don't want it to be like, throughout the whole race or something. These are long races.
Or it could be up to NASCAR's discretion. Like if you get if you're in 3 incidents, NASCAR has the right to remove you from this race.
I'd like that. And you know what? That could be controversial, but it'd be better than this because at least then they're trying to get the race in and maintain some integrity within the race.
Yeah, because no one's gonna watch this. This just makes NASCAR look like rednecks that wreck in circles. Like that's not a good image for the sport, in my opinion.
So 2 things about Sammy Smith. One, if he won this race, he had better have gotten the same penalty that Austin Dillon had
I hated
gotten.
that penalty anyways.
I-
Because you shouldn't let them keep the win. But when you took everything about the win, like the playoff points and the playoff, like, no, just take the win from them then.
Yeah.
Like, that's dumb. Like,
I
don't
just
let
mean,
them
like,
even
at
keep the trophy.
minimum, if
Yeah.
they would have, in that moment, they better have done that same kind of penalty.
I
at
think
minimum.
NASCAR made a they made that whatever line was drawn, they made it so blurry with the Austin Dillon thing, and it still is
Yeah.
blurry, obviously, because Sammy Smith felt like he had to do that going into the final corner, which again, it's just like, and what we said before, I lost so much respect from him because he
Yeah.
looks like one of those rich kids that doesn't care because he is. A lot of these
Yeah.
guys are. Just like the no accountability in the interview. Like, you just tore up so much stuff and you didn't apologize.
Yep. And that's my other thing. My other point about Sammy Smith. He needed his ass beat. I don't care by
I'll do
who.
it.
Whether it was another team, like
I'll
another
gladly do it.
team, whether it was another driver, a crew member, I don't care. The security people need to get the hell out of the way so they can handle stuff. Like, this is
Let Taylor Gray handle him. He'll beat his ass. That thick young man, as Jamie Little once said.
like,
Can I just say Taylor Gray has been getting screwed at Martinsville? He should have won the truck
this is
race there
twice.
last year.
This is
Remember?
the second time. Yeah.
I actually really like him because he seems kind of. Apparently, him and Sammy had history, but like, I don't know. Taylor Gray to me he seems like one of the good guys. I
Yeah.
really want to see him win too because I don't think he's won at the national level before. Maybe he has. Maybe he won a truck race. I don't think that.
I don't know. Have the Grays won? I don't know.
I know Tanner hasn't. Tanner, I don't know what Tanner's doing. Tanner's just messing around the truck series.
Honestly, really just flop of the week to the Xfinity series if that wasn't clear.
It's the best racing every week, but not this week.
Not this week.
Yeah,
Nope.
I didn't really watch the truck race either, but the truck race, I think it had slightly better racing. I don't know. I didn't really watch. I was doing my own race on iRacing and I got wrecked, so that was great.
Did you go beat his ass?
No. I guess I should have.
You got a lot of talk.
Well, I didn't know who it was. By the way, speaking of that truck race, Daniel Hemrick got his second career win in the National Series, his first truck win, which is crazy considering he is an Xfinity Series champion. Did you remember that?
I forget about that all the time. Yeah.
Did you just remember that right now? Like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my, isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. Yeah.
Anyways, got that win. Cool for him. Reminds me a lot when Eric Almirola won in the Xfinity race there last year. Anyways, a lot of people were tagging Corey LaJoy in it because that's the ride Corey LaJoy turned down.
Dumbass.
I don't know. That just tastes good. I don't know what it's called. What is that called? It's like it's not
justice.
Karma. Justice? Or just when good things happen to the right people.
And when bad things happen to bad people.
When nothing happens to the people that nothing needs to happen to. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
you know what we're saying.
Funny. And then Corey responded to some hater, which you shouldn't do.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Don't respond to the hater. And then he was like, well, my decision was based off something God told me or something.
What did he tell you?
God told him to not take that 19 truck.
God told me I need to be in a studio with Danielle Trotta for 6 weeks.
God knows. God's trying to make sure that he never wins a race because he knows that's what's got to happen. I don't know.
That's not my life's journey. I'm never going to win a race.
I'm not even trying to hate.
Anyway, I asked some of our friends on Blue Sky because I forgot to post our Patreon mailbag this week.
We've been
busy with work. Sorry.
So busy. I'm tired.
Yeah, I'm sleepy.
Can we end the show early?
No.
Are we almost done?
Yeah, we're almost done.
Okay.
Some thoughts from our Blue Sky friends. I asked on Twitter too, but none of y'all responded. So, haters.
Come on, Twitter people. You're making me look bad. I still use
you're
Twitter.
making Zack look really bad. From Julian, these kids don't care as much as they should or once did. If they did, Sammy Smith would have had his ass beat.
Then we all
I
want his ass
think.
beat. They're just lining. It's like that episode of SpongeBob where he's got to crawl through that line, and they're all beating
Oh, the
his
spanking
the
machine? Yeah.
spanking machine. That's what Sammy Smith needs to crawl through.
It's like when Dale Earnhardt won the Daytona 500, except it's Sammy Smith crawling through a spanking machine.
Oh my,
Let's do that at Darlington. Let's
oh
do
my
it.
god.
uh, Julian goes on to say, I think this is what happens when kids grow up with rich parents and learning on simulators instead of doing it the way once done. Yeah. Colton Ray Davis says, I don't think drivers nowadays have a ton of respect for their equipment. I would agree with
Yeah.
that. Same kind of reason. Colton goes on to say, playoff system incentivizes reckless racing, and the lack of
Mm.
hands-on work by the drivers on the car means less care for their cars. You had something to say, Zach?
I I like how they bring up the playoff point because I love hating on the playoffs. I don't think that's 100% of the reason though, because a lot of drivers, their careers can get made because of a win, because it's a lot of publicity and stuff, like for
Mm,
sponsors or whatever. But the playoff system definitely plays into that, especially the last half of the season where the pressure's really on. But at the same time, though, you know, getting into the playoffs is a bump in like prize money. It's a huge bump in prize money for your team. So like when Harrison Burton
yeah.
won at Daytona last year, that was a huge bump for that 21 team. So yeah, he's kind of right. Like there's a lot of money on the line with getting just a single win, right?
Yeah.
I get it. I really do get it. I get why drivers race like that. But what Julian and Colton said about drivers not respecting their equipment, I feel like that's also very obvious because they've never had to work on a race car in their life. That's
Yep.
just what it looks like to me. I never have
And
either, to be fair, but
And Colton does go on to say that obviously exceptions exist and there are still nice and humble stars in the series, but it's becoming more popular to wreck or win, which is not entertaining. I agree, Colton. Avery goes back to the playoffs. Avery Hage says maybe the best solution to this is getting rid of winning you're in and getting the security guards away so drivers can actually fight. Please get that one big guy who's always right there at the fights. I'm sure he does a great job, but he does too good of a job. He needs to
I
back up.
I go back and forth on that because like while I do want drivers to be able to like have an
Let him
interaction like that,
talk. Let him talk.
at
They don't
least
even
let them
get to talk,
talk.
really.
Apparently, Jordan Bianchi on the teardown was saying that the confrontation started in the medical center. Like that was like so they and that they were yelling at each other in the medical center. Like if you think about it, like if you were to put yourself in that situation, do we need drivers screaming in the medical center? No.
No,
On pit
no.
road or in the
Because those
garage?
are just
Sure.
people doing their jobs and
Yeah.
they're
I
yeah.
think should we have a setup? Should we have a boxing ring just somewhere?
I
Because also
mean,
I do feel like it almost needs like the hockey rules. Like
yeah.
like the
Oh, we're
fight
gonna bring
stops.
timeouts, or we're gonna bring in
No,
timeouts into racing.
no, like the fight. Like if drivers fight, no
Yeah.
one like it stops when someone hits the floor. I don't know. Let them
Okay.
get their little anger out.
A
And then
little
maybe
angry.
they'll do what Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick did at Bristol. Maybe they'll go to the hauler and get it out that way. Remember?
If you
They
know, you know.
they did things a little
Um,
bit differently, but I'm in support of it, of course, obviously.
Copperhead Road says, "I find it wild these drivers are able to crash on straightaways all the time."
Well, it's Martinsville because everyone's like trying to block each other and like fight for the bottom. So what I learned in iRacing in Martinsville is that every single corner entry when someone's behind you is a game of chicken because if they peak low, you can either block it or let them have it. And if you block it, they can either back off or drive through you. It
Mm.
depends on what set of decisions gets made there if there's going to be contact made. So that's why they sometimes wreck on the straightaways. But that's going to the corner though. So yeah, you're right. I don't know why they are wrecking on the straightaways. That doesn't make any sense.
Now, our last comment from Blue Skies from Jess said, "It was embarrassing. It made the series look bad. I almost turned the race off."
Almost.
And
What
Jess
is it going
says
to
it
take for you to
was
turn the race off then?
Jess says that it was noteworthy that they saw casual NASCAR watchers who primarily watch other racing series say they won't watch Martinsville anymore.
Really?
And then went on to say they need to enforce driving standards. How? Unsure. And then adds that it's a foundational problem and not an easy fix.
Who was it that said boys have at it? Was that Brian France or was that Robert Pemberton? That was I
I
forgot
feel
who
like
it
that was
was.
Robin Pemberton.
Robin Pemberton.
It
Someone
might
said
have been Brian France. I don't remember.
it might have been Brian France. Whoever said boys have at it in 2010, I feel like they did so much damage to the sport.
Yeah.
15
See,
years
at the
later.
time, I was a kid, so I was like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, let him have at it." But now I'm like, that was a bad
4
idea.
races later, Brad Keselowski is upside down in the air at Atlanta.
Yeah.
So,
At Atlanta, not even like a track where that should
so
happen.
yeah, like you have to officiate your sport because you are a sport. This is racing, not wrecking. This is not
Yep.
a demolition derby. It is way too easy for these races to get across that line. We've seen it
Yeah.
time and time again. We saw it again Saturday. But I'll
So,
always watch Martin's. That's entertaining.
oh, me too. So normally those comments be from our Patreon, patreon.com/GarationPod. So I apologize. I
Y'all got lucky this
forgot.
week. Y'all commoners
It's
actually got to be on the
free.
show.
Y'all got a free trial.
A
You're
free
welcome.
trial. I like having them all at the end. That was kind of nice.
Yeah. We're playing around with the format of
Maybe
that
you could do
little
that. I mean,
segment.
it does make sense when you like insert it into the appropriate segment. So do
Yeah.
whatever you think is best. I don't. That's Alex's
I liked
job.
it this way. Yeah, we'll play around with it,
I
see
liked
what
it this
fits for
way.
that week. And Zach, it is throwback weekend, and you alluded
It
to
is
it
throwback
earlier.
weekend.
You have a throwback car for Darlington on iRacing.
Oh my gosh. So in 2008, when Dale Jr. was in the All Star race, he had this awesome silver paint scheme. And I didn't know the reference back then. But he was referencing Buddy Baker's The Gray Ghost. And I've always been in love with silver cars and racing. And I was really excited this year to make our gay racing podcast Ford Mustang into if I can show it correctly. Where'd it go? Into the gay ghost. We need a technical producer to do this. The gay ghost. It's not the gray ghost. It's the gay ghost. I made a little graphic for it. It looks cool. It's got some rainbow trim on it for the little pride details. And I'll be running it this week on iRacing. Hopefully, I don't wreck.
I
Yay!
love it.
So cute. It turned out
You're
really
so
nice.
talented.
I love it.
It did. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So go like it on Twitter. Boost me up. I want people to see it.
Like it on Blue Sky too. That's where I'm at. Even
Yeah,
though
no
I'm
one's on Blue
literally in
Sky.
the comments because you sent the Twitter link to me.
Yeah.
That's if you see me on Twitter, it's because Zach sent me something, and then I'm scrolling for a minute, just
Yeah.
catching up.
Yeah, that's really fun. It looks really
Yeah.
cool. I
Slay
love
of the
throwback.
week to you, Zach.
I have so many throwback ideas. Like I already know what I want to do next year and the year after that. I have a truck one I want to do, but trucks aren't doing throwbacks this year. I might do an Xfinity one later this week if I have time. So it's fun. I'm
I
in my
wanna.
design era.
I want y'all to know Zach went through a lot this week. He built a PC. I heard all the tribulations of it throughout the week.
I
And he had this car designed, and you had to redesign it, right,
because
Zach?
I literally I had this external drive on my laptop that I was using before this PC, and the PC is doing great now. I just didn't do something right, I guess. I don't know. I rebuilt it. Literally rebuilt the whole thing on like Thursday night or whatever.
Hmm.
But I accidentally wiped my external drive with all of my graphic design files, all of them. The file that I used to create the logo, the Gay Racing Podcast logo, all of our graphics and stuff. The good news is, what I did not lose is my knowledge and what I have learned. So it's really easy to recreate basically everything that was on there, like anything that I need.
Yeah.
Some stuff I was able to salvage, but none of like the actual like files where I can move the layers around and edit it. But
Yeah.
hey, it could have been worse. At least I don't do this for a job. Imagine if I was a graphic designer and I had a client
Oh,
and they needed something tomorrow and I had it on that drive. Imagine that. I would have died.
oh, that would have been rough.
I would have actually been having a freaking panic attack.
But slay of the week to Zach for all that because you worked really hard on and you care so much about your graphic design. I'm really
Well,
proud
I
of you.
was
Like you did
literally
a great job with that.
I was breathing really hard and heavy. Like I was about to have a moment because
You were
I
you were
felt
having moments in
I
our
felt
text
like I was
messages.
putting the podcast at risk because I had our
Yeah.
thumbnail graphic document, I had our logo document with the vector
And I was
graphics,
telling you like it's gonna be okay. We got it.
but
We're
I was like,
good.
well, what if we need this logo scalable to a high resolution for something soon? You never know. Like it
Yeah.
just made me anxious and nervous. I was like, but I already got it recreated. It's all good.
Yep. See?
It's just But again, like, I
Such a
felt in that
pro.
moment, I'm like, I put the podcast at risk. I can't do this. I need to be more responsible. Blah, 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 whatever.
Just
Good.
like how God told Corey LaJoy he needs to stay unemployed, God told you you got your talent in graphic
I
design. You know
do.
what you're doing.
No, having a lot of fun.
Well,
Yeah.
fantasy.
I lost.
You did lose. It's been a
Josh
minute.
Berry, that damn battery.
Just like Sammy Smith, or maybe as Sammy Smith should be. I'm getting my ass beat, but I did win. I got 11th with Blaney. You had Barry, who finished 33rd. It is 8-3 because I do not have the points lead. I get to pick first. We're going to Darlington. My pick is Christopher Bell.
Okay.
Yep.
Didn't see that one coming. All right. I will be picking Kyle Larson.
Okay.
Yay.
I'm kind of just letting you have Larson, I feel like, because I don't know. I
That's
probably
okay.
should pick Larson.
He wins a
but
lot of races. I'm not going to pick him for every race, but he's
I
really
just
good at
feel like
Darlington.
Bell is probably going to be in the contention for the win, with probably a top 5.
I
He's just
don't
kind of
know
that
if
guy right now.
is Darlington one of like he's good at Darlington, but he's never like I don't know. He's not
But
that stand out there.
if he's going to stand out, it's probably going to be the year he's kind of having like a really, really strong start to.
I
You know?
guess. Yeah. He does have I don't know. He's
I
only
don't
has
know.
44 laps led there in the last few years. He's
We'll
just I don't
see.
know. I mean, he'll be up front.
Yeah, yeah. So, Zach, next week is our 200th episode.
And that will be really cool because our very first episode was the 2020 Southern 500, and our 200th
Yep.
episode will be a Darlington race, another Darlington race.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So stick around for that. Looking forward to it.
We need to do something
You
special.
I think we're gonna have our friend Jackson Todd on,
Okay.
possibly. So
Okay.
because he's been on more than anyone. And
Thank you.
we'll see. We might be doing like a throwback scheme reaction bonus video too. We were talking about. We'll
Yeah, we'll
see.
see.
If that doesn't happen, pretend I didn't say that. So, in conclusion, everyone, you can leave a kind comment and we'll on YouTube or Apple Podcasts and we'll read it. Thank you to our Patreon subscribers. You can join at patreon.com/gayracingpod. If you'd like, rate us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Consider liking and subscribing on YouTube. Follow at Gay Racing Pod on Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And then you can follow me at New Gaiden on Blue Sky and Zach on Twitter and Blue Sky at Dreamy Zach Racing.
Yeah. Next week we're talking about Darlington, NASCAR's throwback weekend, and that's it. IndyCar's
Is
going to
F-
Long Beach soon.
I think there's an F1
Oh,
race, right?
F1's at Japan. Probably in the middle of the night, but
Probably.
Haas unveiled this beautiful cherry blossom scheme. I'm in love with it.
Ooh,
It's
I'll
so
look at
cute.
that.
You know? That's something that I know someone mentioned when they switched Suzuka to the spring. It's like it's during cherry blossom season and they're in Japan.
Ooh,
It's
that's
so cool.
pretty
I don't know if they
cool.
actually have cherry blossoms near the track, but they must. So,
Cool.
yeah, that's really cool. Well, I hope you guys had fun with today's episode of the Gay Racing Podcast. Again, make sure you follow us to keep up with our latest episodes, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.